An event that even elementary schoolers know about happened approximately 65 million years ago. That was when an asteroid hit the Earth and wiped out all the dinosaurs from this world. But was that what really happened? Could there be a possibility that something more interesting and complicated had taken place to make thousands of species go extinct? In what state was the Earth in a few moments before the asteroid hit? What about a year after, or even a million years after? I know it's hard to imagine, but don't worry, we've got you covered. Welcome to our channel. We want to give you as much information as we can, so let's get right to it. Did the asteroid strike actually happen? The phenomenon commonly known as the extinction of the dinosaurs is referred to by scientists as the Cretaceous Paleogene Extinction. This is because of the fact that this age marked the end of not just the Cretaceous period, but also the Great Mesozoic era, which was divided into 3 different time periods and lasted almost 20 billion years. This event marked the beginning of the new era that we live in now, known as the Cenozoic era. However, dinosaurs were not the only species that became extinct. Even the large reptiles in the sea, as well as the ammonites, who were an archaic species whose origin dates back to the Devonian period, were all wiped out. Almost the entire food chain in the ecosystem became destroyed. However, the extinction of the Cretaceous and Paleogene period was not the largest mass extinction in history. In fact, the extinction came of the Permian, when 96% of marine life and 73% of terrestrial vertebrates went extinct, as well as the earlier Ordovician mass extinction, were larger by far and had catastrophic results. Billions of years ago, the atmospheric oxygen levels skyrocketed, causing a catastrophic upheaval of the biosphere. There were even extinctions of the Frenchville and Hainan biomes, in which organisms completely went extinct without leaving any trace of their genes for evolutions. If you want to try imagining this, try to think of all the animals and plants on this Earth dying and new life having to rise again completely from nothing. If those mass extinctions were much larger, why are the Cretaceous and Paleogene extinctions so much more famous? The reason for that is because we are able to learn and know much more about those periods than the extinctions of the periods in the far past. A person will most likely know about the extinction of the dinosaurs, but have no clue about what a Gorgonops, which disappeared in the Permian extinction, is. Now, let's go back to the discussion on the asteroid. Many modern scientists are almost certain that an asteroid's impact on the Earth was the cause of the extinction of the dinosaurs. However, this doesn't mean that all the dinosaurs on this planet were wiped out the instant the asteroid hit. There are some scientists that still insist on the old hypothesis that states that large animals went extinct as a result of a pandemic, and there is some evidence that leans towards this hypothesis. However, we will not get into that in this video. What we can say for sure is that there was definitely a catastrophic natural disaster of some sort that caused a huge change in the environment of each and every organism. However, keep in mind that this disaster and its effects lasted several years or maybe even thousands of years. From here on, we will take a closer look at what exactly many scientists believe is what happened. Fortunately, we possess the power of a real time machine in the form of geology. The impact that changed the world. There were dinosaurs on land, Mosasaurus and Plesiosaurus in the sea, and pterodactyls in the sky. By the end of the Cretaceous period, reptiles dominated the world. Despite the fact that the evolution of primitive mammals and birds advanced at a faster rate, they were unable to dominate dinosaur species with their sizes. However, this all changed when the asteroid struck the Earth. Although many textbooks still claim that this event occurred 65 million years ago, recent studies have shown that the collision had already occurred about a million years before that. The asteroid, about 10 kilometers in diameter, struck the location that is now known as the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. This site is known to scientists as the Chicxulub crater. Many have also hypothesized that the Shiva crater, located off the west coast of India, was formed by the huge pieces of the asteroid that had broken off before impact. If the asteroid had fallen into the ocean, it would have created a super tsunami of unimaginable magnitude. Of course, the damage of this tsunami would have been severe, yet it's possible that the effects of it would not have been as bad as the asteroid striking land. Unfortunately for the dinosaurs, the main piece of the asteroid struck the land instead of the ocean. The moment the asteroid struck, there was a tremendous explosion that shook the land. As an enormous amount of rock dispersed from the impact site, it rained down on the earth in the form of fire, engulfing the land in flames. At this stage, there is no doubt that the lives of millions of organisms were lost. Yet, the moment of impact was not the worst part of what happened. The fact that the sun didn't shine down on the earth for a long while after this rain of fire had fallen was the most devastating news. The problem wasn't with the sun, but it was happening on the earth. The release of the enormous amount of dust into the atmosphere caused the sun to be blocked out for years. Even on the brightest days, the sky was as dark as a moonlit night, or was even sometimes in complete darkness. As a result, temperatures dropped by tens of degrees Celsius and the polar caps expanded. Photosynthesis stopped, causing large numbers of plant species to disappear. Herbivorous dinosaur species starved to death, and the carnivorous species that relied on those species died from a lack of food source as well. Revenge of the synapsids. How long did these endless nights and long winters last? Scientists have not yet been able to give an exact answer, but it is believed that it may have lasted several years. When all of the dust in the atmosphere finally settled to the ground, the long winter finally ended and spring arrived. However, even when the sun finally shined back down onto the earth, the land was a devastating sight to see. Try to imagine it. Everywhere you look, you will only find dead forests. In those forests, there are the remains of large animals scattered all around. The lifeless sea had washed up all the shells and carcasses of sea creatures onto the shore and piled up the large bones into mountains. The earth was like a vast communal graveyard, where herbivores and carnivores, all of whom were once enemies, lay side by side. What kind of creatures survived under such conditions? We know for sure that there were obviously small organisms that fed on dead flesh, lichens and small shoots. There were even some plants whose seeds and spores adapted to survive long years of winter conditions so that they could germinate when spring arrived once more. Thankfully, the soil was extremely fertile. Just imagine how many dead organisms provided nutrients into the soil. Earth's history shows evidence of how the reigning kings of the world had changed. For example, in the Carboniferous period, giant insects and amphibians ruled the world. By the Permian period, their descendants, the synapsids, flourished. The previously mentioned Gorgonops belonged to this group. However, all of these kings of the land, the only one to survive the Permian extinction was the Cynodont, which belonged to the Theriodontia family. They were somewhat similar to both mammals and reptiles. Despite the fact that they should have inherited the strengths of their ancestors, they were driven out by the rise of their dinosaur ancestors in the post-Permian Triassic period. During the Mesozoic, the descendants of the Cynodont lived in the far corners of the biosphere. They were small animals that ate vegetation, insects, dead organisms, and dinosaur eggs. In the late Triassic, there was an organism similar to a mouse called the Adelobacillus. They gradually evolved, dreaming of the day when they would overthrow the plundering reptiles and regain supremacy in the animal kingdom. The fall of a certain asteroid and the long winter that followed gave them their chance to fulfill this dream. As you may have already guessed, the descendants of the cynodonts are what we know as mammals. A mere 100,000 years after the asteroid struck, the number of mammal species increased dramatically. 700,000 years later, the first large mammal species appeared, and their rate of populating the Earth was immense. Among these mammals were the ancestors of mankind. The first primitive monkeys may have already existed 80 to 90 million years ago, at the same time as the dinosaurs. Among one of the species that survived the Great Extinction was the Purgatorius, a primitive primate that looked more like a squirrel than a modern monkey. Originally native to North America, their omnivorous nature and agile leaping abilities allowed them to populate and spread almost universally. In this age, when the strong and large dinosaurs went extinct and carnivorous mammals or large birds had not yet appeared, the little Purgatorius were possibly enjoying their victorious lives in the world. That's all for today's video. Thank you all for watching. We hope you were able to enjoy it. There are still many unanswered questions about the origin of mankind, and perhaps Purgatorius could be the direct ancestor of mankind. In any case, we most likely descended from the Quinodonts, who regained control over nature and reigned as kings in the world. This means that perhaps we should view the extinction of the dinosaurs not as a tragic event, but rather as a welcome gift from Mother Nature. Once again, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you all so much for your constant support. With that said, it's time to say goodbye, but we'll definitely see you soon. Goodbye.